TIFFANIERO.info.
Join Tiffany
It's radio.
as she brings you inspiring conversation discussing it.
I love that. I love that. I just, today we have a wonderful, wonderful guest speaker, Alexis. Alexis Nicole White. Hi! She's on the phone. She is an author, an entrepreneur, inspirational speaker, a fellow journalist. And I'm so happy to have her here today. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Well, like you mentioned, I started out in journalism, relocated to Atlanta, following the trend, thinking that my career was just going to blow up despite all of the large opportunities that I had, and it just didn't happen like that. So I basically, reinvented myself as a young millennial in a city and just started doing my thing. And I just decided to write my book to talk about what has happened to me and to help empower other women who may find themselves in similar situations.
Well, definitely this show here, one of the things we are about is empowering. And I understand you're from Indiana, and then you moved to Atlanta, which in a sense is like a big city reference to Indiana. How do you feel that just coming from Indiana to Atlanta, that experience with more maybe small town mindset going into like this big city?
You know what? I always felt like I was at home when I came here. And I used to live here way back in the day, like when it was the real Atlanta. And then my mother's job transferred us back to Detroit. So for me, Atlanta has always been home, and I've always come back here to visit as an adult. And so it never seemed like a big transition until, for me, now, if I go back home, I'm like, y'all country.
Atlanta has, I used to go there. My grandparents had a home there. And when I was very young, my mother had a boyfriend whose family was in, I think, Savannah. So, you know how you do that down south trip when school is out in the summertime. And it just seemed so different. And now when I go to visit, obviously for a lot of business situations, it is a whole different world. And necessarily Atlanta is a whole different world than Georgia. If you think that's Georgia, it's not. Atlanta is one piece that has become extremely popular, but it is a different world next to the whole Georgia experience.
You're right about that. It's country. If you go just 20 miles outside of Atlanta, it get country.
It changes. It changes. So I understand. I mean, I know you've done a few. You're a columnist, which is awesome for Businesswoman Media. And you also are a brand ambassador for Swag, her magazine. But I want to kind of chat with you today about your book. It's a memoir of you called The Covered, and what that was about.
The Covered is talking to women. It's just having an honest, raw conversation with women about what is typically happening in our relationships, especially in the Black community. A lot of times we don't want to talk about it, or we watch Love and Hip Hop and we talk about how these girls look crazy, but that happens every day to regular people. And so I, started to tell my story because I found myself being in a bunch of bull. And I'm like, how did this happen to me? And so it's like, my choices and my partners and my mates are not indicative of my parents' parenting, but it is reflective of society and how as a culture, we just do things so jacked up nowadays. So I wanted to, again, have the conversation with women to let them know AIDS is real, not because I've been infected by AIDS, but to show how this happens. We look at the statistics and we're like 1 in 51 or 1 in 15, however you look at the statistics. And it's like, but if everybody's having sex unprotected,
HIV is ridiculously prevalent in Atlanta. It has become, I mean, we discussed this on a couple of shows back. It is, it's, first of all, I just don't, at this point, and what I will say is this, I'm a woman of a certain age, so I'll just say that. When we were younger, hip hop, we had Salt and Pepper, Let's Talk About Sex. We had we talked about wrapping it up. We talked about wearing condoms. You know, I'm from the generation just like, you know, my mom's generation was more like, just don't have sex until you're married. Mm-hmm. Well, that didn't work because she wasn't married when she had me. And she was a young teenage mom. So now we're the product of that. So we're just like, use protection. So the biggest deal was not getting pregnant. And if you had a little something, there was a pill for it. But now there are things that kill you. And it was happening more or less in my teenage years. So we were real big on wearing condoms, doing this, doing that. And for y'all out there, AIDS is not a gay disease. So, I mean, yes, it hit that population real strong at a certain point, but it's not a gay disease. It is a everybody disease. It is not it doesn't have color. It doesn't have gender. It's just a disease that we need to be mindful of. So I'm hearing what you're saying as far as, you know, there are people out there that have sex with people just to spread it because they mad.
Right.
So we really need to be mindful of that. My daughters, again, you know, you want to hope they wait, but if they, please wrap it up. So your experience, with just relationships. Now, do you find your relationship experience change because of where you moved to?
You know what? That's the burning question now, because what I've noticed is when I leave from Atlanta, the men respond to me a whole lot differently than what they do when I'm here in Atlanta. So I don't know if that's specifically the culture of Atlanta, but I do know that the men here are very interested in laying, per se. Not because they don't have anything to offer, but just because they don't want anything out of life. And so there are a lot of ambitious women that are here, you know, that relocate here for work. They make an X amount of dollars. They're doing very well for themselves. But then when it comes to the love department, we're single. We don't have a mate. You can't get a man. You can't get nobody to take you on a date. They talking about going Dutch. I mean, just all kind of crazy stuff. So, you know, I think that is the trend of what's going on here in Atlanta, and I will hope not. But I'm not sure if it's only because we're in Atlanta or if that's just a sign of the times.
I'm finding, I mean, I haven't been in the dating scene for a long time. So that's, I mean, we've been together like over 20 years. So the whole dating piece is real challenging for me. And I don't quite, you know, because it wasn't popular to date online and things like that, where I see people are meeting a lot of people. I was actually looking at, only for research, honey, I was looking at the dating sites.
Okay.
Only for research. But, excuse me, dating is so different. But I will say within culturally, okay, the black men, they have some issues, some real powerful issues. There was, again, going back to kind of when I was growing up, when you would, in New York, you would see more women having jobs. If you know what I'm saying, like you would see with jobs that are, you know, they're throwing their Reeboks and they're running up and down the subway stations, going into their administrative jobs and things like that, like more accessible in the corporate setting. And a lot of the black men, it was just very, there's job to job to job to job. It was never like a consistency. Not all, you know, but there was this turn. So a lot of the men, I don't know who their mentors have been. Like for my husband, his dad didn't even have a, you know, I think he had a 9th grade education. But there was an ambition because they came from so little, and they still had that mindset that the man has to take care of the household. But somehow something shifted with all these single mothers, especially in our culture. I can't speak for someone else's culture. And like I always tell y'all, I invite y'all to come to the show, and y'all give me a lot of different reasons why you don't. I'd love to hear your point of view, different cultures in reference to this. But so because now I have to just deal with mine, I find that the women children, the female children, they saw the strong woman. And so are these boys now looking for their mother? to be strong for them. What do you think?
But you know what? It's not even their mother.
Okay.
They're not even looking for a woman, period. They're looking for what they can get from you, not to invest in you, not to build with you, not to grow old with you. And that's what we're finding, and that's what we're finding to be problematic, because even if you start dating a guy frequently and you guys are doing everything consistently and you believe in your mind that you're building a relationship that's going to eventually lead to a marriage and lead to something serious, you can even get that far and even marry him, and he's still on some bull.
Right.
And it's really, really sad, because I understand exactly what you're saying. And I can almost understand that you're looking for your mom, but they're not even looking for anything.
So, I mean, as us being women, though, when we are like, I had a friend, she was looking for her mate, and somebody told her, write it down, write your list, and put in the Bible. So she puts, I want dark, handsome, rich, yada, 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 yada. And she puts it in there, and she put it in the Bible. And then she met this guy. He had everything on the list. She got married to him, and she was like, the only thing she messed up with is she meant wealthy. She married a Richard. His name was Rich.
Oh, wow.
So he wasn't the rich she thought, but it was the rich she needed. But a lot of times what we settle. I mean, don't you find, like, we want something to take place in this person. We meet this guy, maybe the sex is good and he's cute. So we're like, okay, let's make the other things happen. Because I can say for me, I mean, prior to my husband, I kissed a lot of frogs. And I was in a few, but one really, really bad, emotionally, physically abusing relationship. And I will say this relationship took place and was able to infiltrate because I was at the lowest point of my life, where I probably at that point, not probably, but should not have been dating anybody. I wasn't good for anybody. So because I was in such an tumultuous, crazy point within me, I met the devil himself and said, hey, hi, I like you. Hang out with me. Let's do this. I mean, what's your findings on that?
You know what? That actually happened to me in real life.
Okay.
And, it's interesting because you have to learn how to move forward. And, I didn't necessarily settle, but I did do a lot of compromising that I probably wouldn't have done. But because, like you said, I have kissed a lot of frogs, it was like, okay, well, what can I do a little bit differently for me to be able to be successful in dating and finding the person that I would like to be with? Because for me, it's not about, the typical parameters that a woman defines for a man. It's about personality. What else do you have to offer me? Like, I'm more concerned with companionship than I am with the material objects, because the material things will come. Right. But, just not healing properly from being hurt in a previous relationship, I ended up meeting somebody, and now we have a child together. Okay. So, that's the ongoing debate, because it's like, I can't really move forward because we're still intertwined with one another, but at the same time, we are on two different pages, and I knew that day one. So that kind of like affects me on a daily basis because, as a single mother, I don't know if you're a mom or not, but, as women, we can't just up and go and do what we want to do when we want to. You have to find a child care. You have to plan with the other person. And, men's responsibility to children is a lot different from a woman's responsibility to her child. So, I would like to date and still get back out there, but at the same time, it hinders me because I'm not always available. Like, they'd be like, yo, you want to go out to eat? I'm like, I need more than 30 minutes notice. What I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things you said, and obviously I don't know how old you was at that point. I don't know what your experiences was at that point, but you said you kind of knew day one. Now the blessing, I do have two kids. I have a 15-year-old and an 11-year-old, and they're both women children. So, I'm a woman trying to raise women. So that's a whole other piece. But a lot of times we do know. When I met mine, I don't want to give him life with a name, but when I met my abuser, I knew day one. We kind of do, and I think, what do we do? Like, I mean, you wrote your book, so I'm sure that was therapeutic for you. And as women, we need to, what is our therapy? And when that sixth sense, because as women, we do have that sixth sense more than anybody, because we are the creators. What do we do with? We need to do something with it. What do you feel happened to you that you can advise other women to tap into that sixth sense, to make a change? But the blessing is I didn't have any kids, so there was no blessing. My blessing is I can help others. You have a baby, or you have your child. So you had a gift that came from there. Maybe that was the only reason that was supposed to happen, and that's why your day one had to turn into a day two. But what would you say, and what was your experience therapeutically by writing the book?
I learned that what I do all the time is not listen to that sixth sense, not listen to that intuition. And I tell any woman to listen to that. Because in writing the book, I had the opportunity to look at every situation. I looked at my life for a period of 8 years. And I went back through each and every one. And I learned that the common mistake was that I knew better. I did not feel good about them in my spirit. They did not sit well with me. And for some reason or another, I continued to go forward with them. And I learned from that because when I met my son's father, although he's a great person, we're not good for each other. And I knew that day one when we had that conversation about what we wanted in life, 2 different pages. So I would just strongly recommend women to listen exactly to what they're saying. Men tell you exactly what they want you to know. They tell you. Now it's up to you to listen and to decipher what that means. And they're not just saying one thing and meaning something else. No, they mean exactly what they said. And it's your choice to decide whether or not you're going to walk away or not.
Okay. Now, just to dig a little deep, are you saying that there was emotional abuse in this relationship or physical abuse in this relationship?
Not in this particular relationship, but it does affect me emotionally because there have been some things to happen that nobody will want to happen to them. And I've still had to process and deal and heal so that I can be effective in raising my son and that we can be effective as parents in moving forward. But in previous relationships, I have subjected myself to a lot of emotional abuse. And, you know, a lot of times we don't think that emotional abuse is real because it doesn't leave scars. And that's just simply put not true. It is abusive. It leaves emotional scars that do not heal. And if you don't deal with the issues that you're facing right now or last year or whatever, it's going to always continue to resurface and be a problem in your life.
And two, I'm thinking too, because you're saying, now, were you raised with both parents or were you with a single mom?
My mother raised me. I stayed with my grandfather and my grandparents for the first couple of years until my mother finished up school and got settled. But I was primarily raised by my mother. But I did finish up high school and live with my father, so I kind of saw the difference between a single-parent household and a dual-family household. And I was actually like one of the first trends of this blended family thing. So I don't really know if the family structure makes a difference, but I will say that my father, my relationship with him was not as loving as it could have been, considering that we lived together for 4 or 5 years. So that affected me because I now realize that I have a bad habit of attracting emotionally unavailable men. I attract providers because my father was a provider. But my father, he wasn't a lover, though. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, no.
So when I meet men,
that state that children, even in the womb, depending on how the woman was, will reflect how the child is, and not having that daddy touch, in a sense, makes us. Because I grew up, you know, very, I guess we could be, you know, emotional sisters, because for the beginning of my life, I didn't know my dad. The beginning of my life was more my mom single, my grandfather, because my grandmother died or something. I don't really know the whole story, but I think before I turned 1, she was dead. So it was like kind of my grandfather, then my mom, and then later I met my dad. And there's not that touchy-feely, huggy, lovey relationship. So I always told people, and Sean can attest, even dating, I didn't have any children. You know how people say, oh, she got baggage. So I would say, I don't have the kind of baggage you can see. No, I'm not on drugs. No, I'm not, I don't have kids or whatever, because that's the baggage they tend to say. But I do have emotional baggage, security baggage. And I'm getting it. And I actually did deal with a physically abusing man at one point in my life. So that's what I'm saying, the devil. I met the devil, and he was real cute, but trust me, you don't want that. But I can, like, you being a mom, and you had the child, and you're coming from this environment, it's like a part of you is like, well, I would think, I'm just asking, did you go through, we need to stay together because I don't want my child not having both of us the way, whatever your situation was. So you tried to make it work even beyond.
Well, yes and no, because I haven't forced it, but at the same time, it's important to me that we still do things together and spend time together so that he knows the both of us until he's able to do so on his own. Okay. And so because he has older brothers and sisters, it bothers me that they don't have the relationship, like they're not spending time together, because I know what it's like to be away from my siblings and not having that relationship with mine. And so, at this point, you just have to wash your hands and say, if you're not being proactive about it, I can only tell you from my experience what happened to me and how I feel about certain members of my family. And if you're not willing to adhere to it, then there's nothing else that I can do. And you just have to learn how to walk away from stuff,
What made you leave? And what was the tools you used to get out?
You know what? You just have to decide that you want to be happy, and it's not, like I said, that people are bad people. You just have to realize some people are just not for you, and the only thing that you're going to do is continue to drive yourself up the wall trying to repair damaged bonds. It's just not fair. You know what I mean? And you burn yourself out and you become frustrated and you become angry, and then you're back in the same situation that you was before.
And again, help some of the women out, because a lot of times, we go through, I think there's so many of us have gone through this. So this is a story that touches so many women. I mean, you probably could talk to 10 women. 9 of them have said this is their story or something similar. But the friendships around us seemingly aren't as supportive, even though we've all been through stuff. How do you escape that? Like, when you were going through your situation, did you have some kind of good support system? Or did you have people, girl, child, he's not that bad, that kind of conversation?
Well, there's always going to be haters, and there's always going to be people who just don't want to adhere or give their support or just have something negative to say. Fortunately for me, and to answer your question, you're right. Emotional abuse does take place in platonic relationships as well. But for me, I luckily have friends that have been in my life for a long time. Good. So I have one friend that I've been friends with since the 7th grade, the other one since the 9th grade. Okay. So, I have people that I can confide in and talk to and release in. They understand, the conflict that I'm consistently in. Right. But when it comes to other people that's outside that don't know, I let them talk, but I don't take in their opinion, because at the end of the day, it's about me, and it's about me and this other person who's in this relationship with me. You're not in it, right. So you're not here to experience what I'm dealing with. You have no idea what I deal with. You don't see all the things that I go through, because for me, he's a really good person. He just makes bad choices. Gotcha. So, I can't rationalize the bad choices, but at the end of the day, he's still a great person. So other people don't get the opportunity to see what I see all the time. So I don't even ingest their opinion, because it's just that, an opinion. And if people have so much things to say, I always say, well, what's going on in your neck of the woods? Because people who tend to project their foolishness on others got their own problems going on.
So do you think now, that you are now out of that you can date it again without having all of this stuff bringing into the next relationship, just kind of looking side eye at the dude, waiting for him to mess up?
You know what? I am very much so open, but I just have not found anybody who really, really is treating me the way that I want to be treated. And because I've made so many different mistakes that I've acknowledged that I've made, I'm more cognizant of the choices that I make and the people that I entertain. And I just can't get with this lazy pursuing you business.
Right.
It's just really retarded, you know? So I just can't bring myself to going forward. But I am in the habit of looking, and I do give my number out, and we see what happens from there. Yeah, I mean, I try.
Let me just tell the people, you are gorgeous.
Thank you.
So
Thank
any
you.
real men out there, come on our site, and I'll hook you up to have a conversation with her first. Coffee only, you know. Yeah. And she's obviously, she knows what she's talking about. She's doing her thing. She's got her own piece. She got her own money, you know. So I think, you know, love will find you because you're a loving person. So with that energy, will only mirror that energy. I want to thank you so much, Alexis. Can you tell the people where they can go to get a copy of your book?
Absolutely. Barnes & Nobles, Books A Million, Amazon, and even the smaller bookstores. It's available in 40,000 retail stores across 16 countries. And it's an ebook, too. And I have the audio book coming. So if they don't remember where to go get it from, you can always come to my website, alexisnicolewhite.com, and you can buy it directly from there. And
it's called The Covered. And I want to thank you so much for taking this time out today to chat with us. TiffanyRo.info. We love you. Thank you so much, Alexis Nicole White.
Thank you.
Entrepreneur and author. That was great. Oh, my God.
The best of edutainment.
TiffanyRo.info.
TiffanyRo.info.
I'm Tiffany Rowe.
TiffanyRo.info.
The best in edutainment.
.info. TiffanyRo.info. .info. TiffanyRo.info. Tiffany Rowe.
Truth noble.
Information is power.
Tiffany Rowe. TiffanyRo.info.